just another minute or two. All right, I think, Adrian, if you want to go to the next slide.
Okay.
All right, for those attendees, we do have one more jumping in here in a second. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining us today. As I mentioned, I'm Stan Grichko, Utilities and Operations Director for the City of Davis. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting with a 10-minute video, similar to the other couple of public meetings we've had, which provides information on the stormwater utility, and certainly some background on how we got here today. After the video, we will have some Q&A from the previous meetings that we've prepared responses for, and we'll go through those. And then we'll open it up to any questions that any member of the community has today, and we'll see about providing that information. All right, Adrian.
The City of Davis Stormwater Fee Initiative. First of all, what is stormwater? Stormwater is water from precipitation that flows across the ground and pavement when it rains. An important system of drainage inlets, underground pipes, pump stations, and channels convey that stormwater out of the city and into surrounding wetlands and waterways. There are 130 miles of pipes, 19 pump stations, and over 4,000 underground structures that make up the city's stormwater system. This infrastructure is critical to ensure that Davis does not flood when we get a lot of rain. Flooding is caused when leaves and other debris clog the storm drains and pipes, or when water collects in low-lying areas of the city. City crews also clean out stations like this one before every rain event to help prevent flooding. A well-maintained stormwater system effectively moves water from roads and neighborhoods to reduce the possibility of flooding during significant rain events. Another critical component of the city's stormwater program is water quality protection. Stormwater starts as just rainwater, but as it runs off roofs, yards, driveways, and streets, it can pick up pollutants such as dirt, trash like cigarette butts, pesticides, and other materials in its path. These pollutants can harm fish and other wildlife. Currently, the city's detention ponds can help treat stormwater by allowing contaminants to settle out of the water before it reaches local waterways. Recent legislation has mandated that cities in California work to capture trash before stormwater leaves detention ponds. This is a costly undertaking as new infrastructure is necessary to be in compliance with these state regulations. Did you know that stormwater does not go to the wastewater treatment plant? It is not treated and flows directly to local wetlands and waterways. In recent years, storm drainage systems have become a front line in environmental protection. Keeping pollutants out of stormwater is critical to ensure clean waterways. All property owners in Davis currently pay a storm sewer fee and a drainage fee as part of their monthly utility bill. For a single-family customer, these combined fees total about $6 per month on average. These charges vary by property type and are currently assessed as a flat rate charged per square foot of the parcel. These two fees are shown as one amount on your monthly utility bill. The current stormwater fees have been in place for decades, and while one has an escalator to help the fee keep up with inflation, the other does not. These fees cover most but not all of the current operations and maintenance costs for the stormwater system, but have not kept up with rising costs or regulations, and do not cover the costs to replace aging infrastructure or other necessary capital improvements. The city's stormwater system was built to manage the stormwater needs of a smaller city footprint, and has not been able to keep pace with changing community needs or storm patterns, leading to localized flooding within the city during major rain events. Modifications to agricultural practice surrounding Davis have also contributed to more frequent flooding events in outlying areas. The city also has some aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced before it fails. This South Davis pump station was built in 1965 and the station itself is subject to major flooding. Here is what the South Davis pump station looks like during flood events. Due to higher levels of flooding caused by increased water runoff over the years, city crews have had to install a steel plate about halfway up the door to this station in order to keep the floodwater from entering and destroying the equipment inside, and even that is barely enough to keep the water out. This station did flood prior to welding this plate in the doorway, and the station did fail. Since the plate has been in place, the station has not flooded. However, as can be seen in the photo, it has been close at times. This flooding also causes safety concerns for staff when they need to wade into the floodwater to access the station. Even when not flooded, they have to step over this 2-foot-tall plate year-round. Some of the equipment in pump station number 6, as shown here, has been in use since it was built in 1924 and is well past its recommended replacement date. The equipment in both of the pump stations shown is long overdue for replacement with new, more energy efficient and higher capacity equipment, but the current stormwater fees cannot cover these costs. State regulations related to stormwater management and quality have also recently been updated. These proposed rates will allow the city to adapt with these changes without competing for funding with other vital city services. As maintenance costs and clean water regulations continue to increase, without a new stormwater fee, the program will struggle to meet its commitment to city residents, businesses, and visitors to keep up with its important flood control and clean water responsibilities. A dedicated and reliable funding source, which would replace both of the current stormwater fees, is needed to provide for clean stormwater, flood control, improved maintenance, capital improvements, and enhanced services. The proposed stormwater rate will be approximately a $7 increase per month for single-family property owners. In order to address these funding issues, city staff initiated a fee study in coordination with the city's Utilities Commission, culminating in a fee report which lays out all of the stormwater facilities and services, projected the program's revenue requirements, calculated how much each type of property contributes to stormwater runoff, and determined how much each type of property should pay as its fair share of stormwater costs. The fee report and proposed fee increases have been reviewed by the city's Utilities Commission and reviewed and approved by the City Council. The fee report shows the current revenues and expenses of the stormwater program. As you can see, projected expenses for this year are currently higher than revenues. The fee report estimated some future needs to add to our baseline values for operations and maintenance. These needs include an increase in the clean water standards the city must meet before it discharges stormwater into the creeks, as well as other operations and maintenance costs. The fee report also quantified the stormwater system's high-priority capital needs, including replacing outdated pump equipment as we discussed earlier, and widening the Covell Channel to meet increased water flow needs. Storm Drain Station number 3, located at the north end of H Street, has been identified through stormwater studies as a high-priority replacement project. This station pumps all stormwater from the area bounded by Covell Boulevard to the north, Russell Boulevard to the south, State Route 113 on the west, and Pole Line Road to the east. Stormwater from this considerably large area all flows to pump station number 3 and is moved to the F Street Stormwater Channel. In 2019, the city was awarded a grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency to determine the best plan to remodel or rebuild the station to meet the current needs and future needs of the area. Page 21 of the fee report shows the amount of the fees being proposed to cover these costs. The average single-family home would pay about $13 per month on their monthly city services bill for stormwater, with smaller residential properties paying a little bit less and larger residential properties paying a little more. Other types of property would also pay their fair share, as shown here. As with all of our utility funds, there is a robust public process to review how these funds are spent. Each of the city's utilities is a dedicated enterprise fund, meaning the rates pay for the program and program operations entirely and cannot be utilized for other programs. Each year, the city's Utilities Commission reviews each fund, including rate revenue and planned expenditures. Stormwater fee updates will be presented annually to the City Council with the Utilities Commission recommendations for the city budget process. In the past, the city's general fund or loans from other utilities could cover minor required maintenance activities not currently paid for by stormwater fees. But in recent years, the needs of the utility have expanded beyond these minor projects. Property owners will determine whether the proposed fee will be implemented. There are 3 different opportunities to make your voice heard regarding the proposed stormwater fee increase. A notice was sent out to property owners mid-March with information on the new proposed fee. The notice also provided details on how property owners who do not approve of the proposed fee can submit a written protest. There are 4 virtual community meetings being held via Zoom in March and April. Thank you for joining us today. All members of the public are invited to attend one or more of these community meetings. Each meeting will cover the same information. The dates and times are listed in the public hearing notice and on our website at stormwater.cityofdavis.org. On May 4th, the City Council will hear comments from the public in regards to the proposed fee. At the hearing, the written protests will be counted, and if property owners of more than 50% of the properties subject to the fee have submitted a valid protest, the City Council will not be able to take further action in regards to this proposed fee. If there is not a majority protest, then the Council may vote to proceed with a ballot measure. If the Council votes to proceed with a ballot measure, we expect ballots to be mailed to property owners in mid-May 2021. Property owners would have until June 25th to mail or bring in their ballots to the City Clerk. Completed ballots would have to be received by this deadline to be counted. Postmarks will not count. If the City proceeds to balloting for this initiative, we expect the ballot results to be announced at the City Council meeting on July 6th. For more information on the proposed stormwater rates, please visit stormwater.cityofdavis.org. Thank you for joining us today, and we will now start the live question and answer session.
All right. Before we get started on the question and answer session, we have a few questions that we've already had asked a few times, and we wanted to go ahead and share those with you now. These questions are listed here, and we've included longer responses on the following slides. We've had questions around how the stormwater fee is charged currently, if we could use some federal stimulus money for stormwater infrastructure, how we define enhanced services, and why we are using a CPI from the Bay Area. The stormwater charge appears as one charge on your monthly utility bill, as we stated in the video, and it is a combination of 2 charges. We are still looking into the requirements around federal stimulus dollars, but all signs point to the funds being intended for the specific purpose of COVID-19 relief and relief measures only. The city is always looking for grant opportunities to apply to offset the cost of some of these major projects. And the proposed rates account for a number of necessary adjustments to the stormwater fund, including the development of a reserve and funding for routine services that are not suitable for the one-time funding that would be associated with the federal stimulus dollars. In the notice, we referenced enhanced services. The term enhanced is being used here to describe services that are not currently being performed or are not performed as frequently as needed, but are necessary to maintain efficient and effective operations of the stormwater utility and prevent backlogs like the one that we are currently experiencing. And lastly, the city used the San Francisco Oakland Hayward Consumer Price Index Urban as it is used for taxes and assessments and fees by agencies throughout the state of California. The cost components of the stormwater program are influenced by a wide variety of factors, so no one CPI is going to be a perfect CPI to use in this instance. What's most important to remember here is that the rate will not adjust automatically. The CPI index is setting the maximum amount of the rate adjustment annually, but the City Council, with support from the Utilities Commission, will set the actual rate each year based on the reviews of those program revenues and expenditures. So as we start with the questions and answers with staff, we want to make sure that we can address as many questions as possible. So we ask that you help us out by asking one question at a time. If you have additional questions, please wait and raise your hand for the next opportunity. If we're not able to get to everyone today, we will post questions on the city's website. The videos from the previous 2 public meetings are currently posted along with the Q&A we received for those meetings as well. Please email your questions if we're not able to get to them to pwweb@cityofdavis.org, and that email address will remain on the screen during our Q&A, and your response, we'll get a response to you if we're not able to answer your questions today. So with that, we'll go ahead and start the Q&A.
All right, thank you, Adrian. By the way, Adrian Heinig, who was just speaking, is our management analyst, did a lot of work with the stormwater study and certainly is available to answer questions. I'm obviously available to answer questions as well. And Brian Michelson is here as well, who manages the operations and maintenance of the stormwater utility. We're all available depending on the nature of the questions that anyone may have. All right. Let's go ahead and get to the
Looks like we have a question from Al Wright. Al, go ahead and ask your question. You may need to unmute.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. It was I learned a lot of things I didn't even know about. But there's no. It's really hard to determine if the fee increase is justified, because we don't really see what the costs are for the replacing the storm facilities and the enhanced rate. So it's all we see is there's going to be this increase, but we don't really see how the numbers line up with actually the expenses. So is there a way to get that kind of information?
So it's a great question. I think you're asking about particular details around the planned expenditures and costs associated with the utility. Absolutely. The fee report that's online is going to provide a really good amount of that information, detailing out both the operations and maintenance costs, as well as the capital improvement costs, which are roughly $29.5 million worth of identified capital improvement costs at this point. But that study should provide you most of the detail you're looking for. And then certainly if there's other particular questions you might have, you could certainly email us and we can get that information to you.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to just know what are one-time costs versus like ongoing costs. That'd be helpful too.
Absolutely. And the fee study does identify the O&M is typically O&M is going to be ongoing. It's the capital that'll be the one-time hit to the utility, essentially to improve that physical infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Oops. There we go. All right. No questions as of yet, but we'll stick around, see if there's any other ones here. And then we do have a slide to that last comment. I believe we have a slide at the end here that'll show the website address as well. Okay, there's a couple hands.
Hi there. I am wondering just how you came about that larger parcels should pay more.
Okay, understanding how the fee study methodology was done. So essentially what we're looking at is what we call impervious surface, meaning roofs of homes, driveways, in larger commercial parking lots, those types of things. And essentially you're looking at the size of the property. We did a statistical analysis, mostly from overhead mapping that our consultant used to identify typical size properties. And we grouped those properties in various sizes based on essentially, I think the fee report does it, it's by a percentage of acre. But essentially we used that analysis and then we took out the impervious surface. So typically if you have a larger property, you're going to have more area or impervious surface, and that runoff is what we account for. The fee report does outline that in much more detail. Susan, I don't know if you or Adrian, if you want to expand on that a little bit.
I think you covered it really well, Stan, and I will say that there is a lot of really good detail in the fee report. So I would recommend looking through that because I think it's more detail than we would be able to get into here.
Yeah. And it is a change in methodology, certainly from the previous, where it was just based on pure square footage. Okay, that may have answered 2 questions.
My apologies.
No, that's fine. We can see if we have any. There we go. We have a hand.
Okay. Madeline, feel
Madeline?
free to ask your question. You may need to unmute.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I would wonder what the relationship is between the cost of the improvements and the infrequent pickup of organic matter in the gutters. So over the years, the pickup frequency has declined. And so there are more leaves and other organic matter that are in the gutters. And I just wonder if that's accounted for in your design.
So it's a great question. You're asking if the material that flows into the storm drain system, organic or otherwise, is I would expand it a bit and say other material is accounted for. And I would absolutely, our normal maintenance procedures and cleaning procedures of both the pump stations and the storm drain lines that are under the ground do account for cleaning out that material. But in addition to that, and your question really more pertains to more recent years where we haven't had as much pickup from a loose in the street perspective. We have identified that as a need in this study. Potentially what we'll be doing is in one of those enhancements that you understand as part of the study will be to ensure that material is removed as much as possible, both from the system and the street in a timely manner. The other thing I'd point out is from a regulatory perspective, there's what we call the trash amendments, or is commonly referred to as the trash amendments, which was referred to in the video a little bit, is going to require us as a utility to be removing a lot of that material pre-discharge to any of the waterways around the city. So this study does account for all of those costs associated with that.
So might it be cheaper to just increase the frequency of pickup?
From a perspective of more cost or less cost, it's certainly an efficiency change. If we can invest some O&M dollars via this study here to remove that material above ground versus having to flush it out of the systems, that may be more efficient. Part of the issue we've had with this utility is certain assessments have not been able to be made because we don't have the funding to do so. With this study, we will have that ability to assess if we say enhanced our street sweeping services to remove more of that material above ground. Would we then not to have to invest as much at our detention basins to remove it at that point? So those types of things certainly would be assessed. But as far as it's about efficiency, not necessarily what I would consider to be a large cost reduction, but certainly it needs to be looked at.
Looks like we have another question from Al Wright.
Okay, Al?
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah. First of all, how do you know?
I'm sorry, Al, we didn't hear you there.
Oh, sorry,
So-
Al. I think
No. That's okay. I think we stepped in. So first of all, I don't know how you know my name, but I guess I put that in somewhere. So I'll just speak for a couple from my neighborhood here. I've been getting questions from them, and so one is we have people that are very ecologically minded, and they're collecting the rainwater. It's not going down in the drain. So for those people, is there any kind of a accommodation for that?
Well, for certain categories, so certainly, capturing rainwater and reuse on property, fantastic idea. To water your plants and those types of things. As of right now, single family residences do not have a credit associated with that built into this study. There is for development and for those larger commercial areas, if they do, which they're required by California code to do certain improvements, they potentially could apply for a small credit toward their bill for capturing and treating some of that rainwater on site. But
Well, I
currently,
guess
go
yeah,
ahead.
no, appreciate it. So, and I guess I would like to encourage you to look at that, because that seems like a very efficient way to help this situation. I mean, we have neighbors that have like really large collection systems. So, and if more people did that, that would help, I'm sure. The other thing I'm hearing from neighbors is that the proposed increases would be really significant. They'd be like 200, 300% of what they're paying now. And that seems really dramatic. And so I guess I'd like a comment on that, because it seems like this has been a issue that's been going on for a long time. And so it's going to be difficult for people to be able to afford that.
Understood. Talking about the affordability of the increase, and
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit longer response to that one is certainly as mentioned in the video, we've had minor adjustments to one of the two fees over the years since it was instituted. But as that hasn't been near enough to keep pace with both the capital investments needed and then the O&M costs that we've incurred as the city has gotten a bit larger. To that effect, though, part of this fee study, we couldn't complete the fee study until we had certain assessments done to understand the scale of the need, like for our CAP for the lift stations. So that took a number of years. So we've actually been working toward this study for about 5 to 6 years now to get the information in hand, enough of it anyway, that we would feel comfortable going to you and the community with what we feel would be an appropriate fee now and moving forward to fund the utility. We understand it's certainly a one-time increase. Typically it's going to be about double for some's going to be a little more, some's going to be a little less, certainly. But we really didn't have the information before we started this study to really have the idea to be able to be confident and comfortable that if this is enacted and it's a significant, one hit right here, and then modest 2 to 3% on average, no more than 3, moving forward, that the utility is on a sustainable path to keep it funded and sustainably managed moving forward, and that includes the capital side as well, and that capital is probably the largest driver of the cost increase that we're seeing. Okay, looks like Al.
Okay, Al, feel free to ask your question.
No, I meant to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
No issues.
But anyway, I appreciate
That's
it. I just want to say it's a dramatic increase, and so if there's a way to have that be like the capital thing is that a one-time thing, we all pay for that at one time, and then if there's something less going on forward or something like that, or with the big infrastructure bill that's going on in Congress right now, those kinds of things might.
So, and Al, those are great,
might be able to be helped.
Yeah, those are great comments, and I would add that that's a great point you make. Is we are absolutely always looking for grant opportunities and ways that we can minimize, the impacts to the ratepayers. What I would say is if this is implemented and it turns out that we're able to receive either some infrastructure money from the administration, from the federal or state government, and or we're successful in gaining some grant funds, then those future increases, the 2 to 3% a year, certainly as we go to the Utilities Commission and Council, we as staff would probably be, depending on the nature of the amount of money that we receive for the utility, we would not be enacting those. Those are certainly not automatic increases. And I would note, as the utility manager for the city now, we back in, I believe, 2015, our wastewater was in line for a 10% increase as the last of its increases. And I actually went to council and said, we do not need to do an increase. Our revenue versus expenditure is just fine. So we actually have some history of going to council and not recommending increases when is appropriate. So this is another example of absolutely, if we're able to achieve some additional revenue, we absolutely would not recommend some of those future increases for this utility. All right, a few more minutes in case anyone has any questions. I see we might have one again.
Okay, Al, you can ask your question.
Sorry, I thought I was still on the line there. So is there any, I know it's kind of funny, huh? Is there any accommodation for people that can't afford the one-time increase? I mean, we have lots of different, we have a huge range of income in the city.
So right now with stormwater, there is not an offset program, if you will. One thing with the Prop 218 or the utility fees, the rates that we charge for the 4 utilities, they are not allowed to have essentially a core tenet of Prop 218 is that one individual cannot subsidize another. So we are not allowed to use stormwater funds to do that. So we can't, if someone is challenged to pay those fees and another person, even if they wanted to offset that, by Prop 218 tenets and law, we can't do that. What we can do and what council certainly can consider, and they've done a small program within water, is you can use other fees, general fund and or other fees to potentially council could say, for those that may qualify under a certain threshold, they would be potentially could offset those fees. But right now, as it stands, each property would be charged the appropriate amount based on the fee study.
And Stan, if I can clarify, the discount on the utility bill is for the whole bill. It's not the water portion of the bill. And that discount is paid for partially by the late fees that folks will pay when they're charged those for late payments. So it is general fund money that's able to be used. And you're absolutely right. The enterprise funds can't be used to subsidize any of our customers.
Right. And thank you for that clarification, Adrian.
Stan, you're muted.
It got me. I'm so sorry. Not seeing any other questions as of yet. So why don't we go ahead and go to the final slide. And then certainly if anyone has any questions, we're still free to take those. If some of the information we referred to earlier, and certainly the fee study, if you go to stormwater.cityofdavis.org, all of the information that's been prepared around this effort, including the fee study and any other outreach material that we've presented, is available there. Also, the Stormwater Utility 101 certainly gives a lot of, similar to what you saw in the video, gives a lot of information about our utility and about the infrastructure around this utility. So certainly encourage everyone to go check that out. We do have one further question.
Go ahead, Madeline.
Thank you. I've been looking through my files in the purchasing of this house in South Davis. I cannot find my parcel size. So would the city of Davis have that information on property description, on the homeowner insurance? It's curious that nobody has reported the parcel size.
Adrian, do we have, is there an easy method to achieve that?
As I understand it, the consultant got that information from the county in looking at the different parcels in the city of Davis. We also have that information available by, I believe, finance. Our finance department has that information. You could go ahead and give them a call and ask for that information. In addition, if you would like to know what the rate would be for your property, if you email your name and address to pwweb@cityofdavis.org, then we can look up that information for you and share it that way as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Adrian. Okay, looks like we have another question.
Okay, Kathy, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi there. I'm trying to get my head around understanding. There's a lot of information in looking at this fee raise. And by the way, I'm out here in Willowbank. So for us, we're already paying almost $12 a month. And now you want to go to whatever it is, $19. I'm really trying to, and we're new to Davis. So I'm trying to understand your situation. Question number one. So this is a delayed maintenance fee raise, basically.
So understanding, where the fees are arrived at. So from a perspective of it is capital investment that hasn't been accomplished over the years, certainly. I wouldn't say delayed potentially is not the word I would use. However, certainly there's maintenance that has absolutely been deferred because of revenue shortfalls. We also didn't necessarily have the information, as I mentioned earlier, to present the fee study and the increase that would be necessary to fund those.
Okay. Second question, the consultant and everything all the reports, studies I've glanced at, I did not see any consideration of soil type as to amount of runoff. Willowbank is very different from Davis. We are not clay soils out here. We are sandy loam. So our our groundwater, how do you say it? The ground is not running off as much as in town. That would be my second question to you is, did the consultant consider soil types as for the amount of runoff?
So soil type as amount of runoff would be the question.
The soil type wouldn't be considered because what we were looking at for runoff is the impervious surface. So the roofs, the driveways, and that sort of thing. Based upon the soil type or the soil that's there, we assume that would soak in and percolate in and would not run off. So we're looking at, like I said, those impervious surfaces. So in this case, it's not necessary to take into account that soil type. Does that make sense?
Okay. We do have another question. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, Al, go ahead and ask your question.
Last one, I promise. So I'm kind of representing my neighborhood here. So and we're on the stormwater site, and we can't find the fee study. Can somebody help us with that?
1 second. Yeah, Adrian can certainly do that while I mute my dogs. Sorry.
Sure. So if the stormwater.cityofdavis.org website leads you to the link that says the Stormwater Fee Initiative. If you follow that link, then it goes to the stormwater rates and rate information page. About when the documents start, I think it's about halfway down the page, there's going to be information on how the fee is charged, the proposed fee structure with that table showing the numbers. Then there's the information about the community meetings. Just underneath that is a link to the full fee study. It's labeled. There is a picture of the fee study cover next to it. That's like the one that's on this slide here, the large white City of Davis report with the logo there in black. And if you click on that, that is the link to the full fee study. That is also included in the City Council reports that are on that page from December 15th, 2020. And the Utilities Commission report, I believe that is in October.
And Adrian, so this takes us to the stormwater site, the URL there. And so is it the documents and links or the stormwater rates and rate study?
Stormwater rates and rate
that
study.
we should look at?
Yes. Stormwater rates and rate study.
Rates and rate studies. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
Yep.
It looks like we have a question from Ria. Go ahead, Ria, and ask your question.
So I'm still a little bit confused on the rate. So you say that it's based on parcel size, but a house and the driveway doesn't take up that entire parcel necessarily. So if the concern is about the impervious surfaces, the roof, the driveway, the patio or whatever, how is there a correlation between that and the parcel size in terms of determining who should pay, whether it's $7 more or $6 more per month? Could you explain that? I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, I'm just, Susan or Adrian, if you could go into that a little deeper, maybe.
I might look to Susan if she's able to provide that information.
Sure, yeah. So this is Susan Barnes. I'm actually from the consulting group that wrote the fee report. And so that's a great question. The way that the rates were set are based on, we're actually looked at the percent impervious surface. So for houses, they have an average amount, percentage of that parcel that's impervious. Whereas for a parking lot, of course, the percent impervious is going to be much higher than it is for pretty much any other type of property, because that's pretty much all paved. And for a business, it would be a little different. And for, school, it's going to be different. So what this fee study does, it looks at the percent impervious surface on each type of property, and then sets the rate based on the size, taking into account the percent of that type of property that's impervious.
So if I can take that a little bit further. So if we just say, for sake of argument, it's a 10,000 square foot parcel, and there could be a house that's 1,800 square feet on that parcel, and then there could be a house where it's 2,300 square feet. So is it just because that parcel is 10,000 square feet, regardless of whether the house is 2,300 or 1,800, the rate increase is still going to be the same?
Yeah, so it's not practical for the city to look at and measure the size house on every single lot. And of course, that could change over time, because some people might add to their house and that sort of thing. And so rather than measuring every single house in the city, what we did is we measured the actual houses based on the size of the lot for selection, and then did it based on averages. And so that's how we came up with it. So we're not going to be measuring the actual size of every single actual house. That's why we're doing on the parcel size groupings.
It looks like we have another question from
All right,
Al.
Al.
Okay. Go ahead, Al.
I didn't mean to do that. I'm really sorry.
No worries.
Not sure. Okay, right. Next person.
Okay, Madeline, I'm going to, there you go. You can unmute.
Thank you. So I'm looking at my city services bill and the letter I received. And the letter talks about a storm sewer fee and a drainage fee. But I don't see on our bill something called the storm sewer fee. I see sanitary sewer, I see storm drainage. So what are the exact fees that we're talking about in terms of our bill, what we see on our bill?
Very good question about the bill specifically. Adrian, do we want to go back to that previous slide that showed, or is that part of the video? Never mind, that's part of the video.
I would say yes, that was part of the video.
Yeah,
but
sorry, can't go back to that. If you want to answer, that's fine.
So the charges, the storm drainage fee is what appears on the city's utility bill. That one fee is a combination of the two fees that we're talking about and were referenced in the letter. So the stormwater charges currently are charged through two different fees that show as one fee on the utility bill. The proposed fees would replace both of those fees, and that storm drainage fee would then be the result of the one fee.
So is it the storm drainage fee that
Yeah.
contains both,
Yes.
Correct.
or the sanitary sewer fee?
The storm drainage fee contains both of the stormwater fees.
So the storm drainage fee contains the sewer fee plus the drainage fee.
Yes, the storm sewer
Okay.
fee and the storm drainage fee, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have KM. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, going back to the size of the parcel, I purchased this property in May of last year. It is over the 0.27 or a third of an acre. And my house is only 1,400 square feet. I'm in the process of installing a gray water collection and the rainwater collection. So is there, would you also consider offsetting the costs, because I am doing the best that I can to collect as much water as I can?
So I understand, wondering if we can offset the cost from a perspective of rainwater catchment. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, that is for single families, that is not currently envisioned. Although, certainly it is something that could be looked at into the future, but as part of this fee study, it is not part of the structure at this time. But if that rainwater catchment certainly becomes more prevalent, council has talked about that in the past, and I suspect we'll do so into the future. But as part of this fee study, it is not part of the options that we currently have.
Okay, we have a question from Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, yeah, just kind of tagging on to some earlier questions here about the fees. So in your example here, and I'm looking at your PDF online, the storm drainage fee, which contains both the fees, would go from currently what it is, in this case, 3.56. It would then jump to the say for a large lot, 17.45. And that's on a monthly basis.
Yeah, so I'm understanding if you're asking about the specific fee that's being replaced and what it would jump to, and yes, depending on which the fee you're talking about is the correct one that would be replaced in the utility bill. Depending on which size of the property, based on percent of the impervious area on average, that would jump up to that fee that you were referencing. It varies between. I want to recall it varies between. Yeah, I can't recall, but the upper end is around the 17 there, I believe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, kind of 10 to 20 there. So,
right.
And you mentioned there's like a one-time hit. Is there a separate fee for that, or is that rolled into this monthly?
Yeah, I apologize when I probably phrased that incorrectly or confusing. In reference to that is this increase that you're seeing now, that would be the first year where it'd go from like 3 to your example to 17. That is what I was referring to as the one-time significant increase. And then moving forward from there, it would be the anywhere from 2 to 3%, depending on the CPI of that given year moving forward into the future. So I apologize. There's no separate one-time additional. We're only talking about the one fee. I apologize for that confusion.
Okay.
We have a question from Kathy. Go ahead and ask your question, Kathy.
Yeah, hi, I'm going back to a couple of the earlier questions, and maybe it's a question for the consultant, Susan. So I'm going back to a large half-acre parcel in the Willowbank area. In terms of from a watershed perspective, I believe our property has actually very little. In fact, we've worked hard to keep all water that falls on this property so that our groundwater aquifer is recharging as much as possible. In town, and go back to the house size. So we have an 1900 square foot house and a driveway. But the land around us is functional. It's receiving the runoff. Go into town, a house the same size as ours that is perhaps on a smaller lot is discharging a lot more water. So I don't see the fairness at all in hitting us with such a large increase when we're actually benefiting the watershed compared to what's in town. And I just want to say up front, of a protest vote, I don't appreciate the way that this fee is being leveraged, discouraging us who are on land, trying to do the best we can with the land to do as much rainwater capture as possible, so that pervious surfaces on the other side of town are getting off for a lot less. Just for the record, I appreciate a response from Susan. Thank you.
Sure, yeah, I appreciate your concern. We did our best to come up with a formula that we thought would be the most fair. And so, you know, any property of your property size would be paying the same amount. We certainly appreciate the fact that there are people like you out there who are very concerned about the environment and they're collecting the water and trying to stop your property from having a lot of water runoff. We really appreciate you making those efforts. And, you know, maybe sometime in the future, there might be an opportunity to give some kind of credit for that. So, you know, I'm sorry if it's feeling unfair at this point.
And I would just add to that, Susan, if you go to the fee report on page 15 of the fee report, it does explain that methodology. I'm not suggesting that it's going to satisfy certainly, Kathy, certainly your concern, but that does explain in greater detail the methodology, and then but certainly understand your concern and information that you're providing on your property. Thank you. We're coming up against the hour here, but if anyone has any additional questions, happy to take them. Otherwise, we'll call it an evening. And then certainly if there are any follow-up questions after, certainly a few of you have expressed a desire to look at the fee report. If you do have any further questions, please reach out to the website we referred, PWWeb, or the email address. And we would be happy to respond to those questions as well. We do have one more. Al?
Go ahead, Al.
Can send us the link to the fee report. I can't find it. I'm sorry. That'd be helpful. Thanks. Thanks so much.
You got it.
All right.
Yep.
So I don't have the ability to send something through this. So
Right.
Al, if you would please email pwweb@cityofdavis.org, I can send you that link, no problem. Or like I said, if you scroll to the bottom of the page for storm rates and the rate report, sorry, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there is a report for the City Council from December 15th. The fee study is there as well.
Oh, okay. I think I found it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have one more.
Okay, KM, feel free to ask your question.
I'm just trying to find the presentation, the slideshow that you had before on the site as well, the link to it.
So on the site, there are 2 videos currently from the previous community meetings. And each of those videos contains the video that we showed at the beginning of this meeting.
You mean the links for the previous Zooms?
Yes, those previous Zooms show the video that we had for the beginning of this meeting.
Okay, maybe it would help if you posted that in there.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. Seeing none, thank you all for attending. Excellent questions. Appreciate the feedback. Again, if you have any additional questions, please let us know. We do have one more community meeting on Saturday, April 24th at 1, at which will show the same information that was presented today, and then follow the same format with the live Q&A after that presentation. Thank you again for your feedback, and appreciate the time. Thank you.